Hey, I'm Nyomi and I have a lovely special guest today. This is Molly.
Hi!
So Molly has a blog and a vlog called Mother's Always Right. I've got that right, haven't I?
Yeah, my blog is Mother's Always Right, and then on YouTube I'm just Molly Forbes.
Oh really? I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
So you might remember Molly from some vlogs I did a while ago.
Last year ago, nearly.
God, it was,
nearly
wasn't
a
it?
year ago.
And I've been dying to see Molly ever since, but we live so far apart. We haven't been able to. But at last we're reunited in Manchester. We've both come for a blogging conference this weekend. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to speak to Molly about something that she posts a lot about. If you're familiar with what Molly does, especially on Instagram, you'll know that Molly is a big proponent of body confidence.
Yeah.
So I wanted to speak to you about that today.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm really interested in your journey with body confidence because I remember the last time when we were in, where was it? Skipton.
Yeah, Skipton. Near Skipton.
We were chatting about stuff like body confidence then, and
Yeah.
I was kind of on a bit of a rant, and I feel like back then you weren't as far along on your journey as you are now.
No,
So back then, I think we were chatting and you'd said you'd recently done a diet or an exercise regime and stuff, and we were chatting about body confidence, and I was saying about the stuff that I was reading, and I think maybe back then I might have been a little bit further along in terms of body confidence than you were, and then since then you have just shot at, and now I think you're so much further along your journey than what I am. So I find that quite inspiring because I'm like, how did that happen?
I think it's interesting because I think
and was it down to me? 'Cause I think
all down to
me. Can I take
that? Do you know, I think it's interesting because I think that like the way you say like further along in the journey makes it sound like it's almost like a thing that you start at one place and you get to the end and that's it, that's where you are.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that is the case, because I think that as women particularly, who, especially if you have babies and stuff, your feelings about your body can change so much over a certain amount of time. So I think I've always had particular body hang-ups, but I've never hated my body.
Yeah.
But I've always had particular parts of my body that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with. Nothing necessarily to do with weight, although sometimes it's been to do with weight, but it was things like I didn't like my shoulders. You know, as a girl growing up in the 90s, you know, people like Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton.
Heroin chic.
Yeah, the whole heroin chic, Kate Moss. So, you know, I never felt like I was thin enough.
I love that whole that recent Tess Holiday thing where it's like she's glamorizing obesity. It's like, hello, heroin chic.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly
heroin
was
chic.
It? But I think for me, like, I've kind of always had this kind of up-down thing. I've never hated my body, and I've never felt that I didn't want to wear a bikini until I had my second baby. And then my confidence, not even just my body confidence, but my whole general confidence really took a nosedive. And I think it was really like a huge part of it was turning 30. I had her when I was nearly 31. No, I was 31, so I was 31 when I had her.
The same as me with Lena,
so I think part of it was being in my early 30s and then being a mum of two. And I had this idea in my head that a mum of two in her 30s looked a certain way, and suddenly it seemed so much more grown up and kind of in my head almost frumpy in a way, like mumsy. I was more mumsy because I was a mum of two in my 30s.
Sexism, isn't
yeah,
it?
Completely.
Internalized.
Whereas when I was in my 20s and I was a mum, I was working full-time as a radio presenter, and I was, you know, still in my 20s, and, you know, and I was very kind of outgoing, surrounded by other outgoing people. And I think I had a real time, good and bad, because I really soaked up. I loved, that makes it sound like I hated the first year of motherhood. I loved the first year as a mum of two, and I really soaked up the baby days because I knew that they would go quickly. But I didn't get much sleep. I didn't have any time for myself. All my time went on
the zero self-care is
completely. I didn't feel like justified in spending money on myself on things like clothes, so I used to buy loads of my clothes second-hand on eBay, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wasn't necessarily buying clothes I wanted to wear. I was buying clothes for practical reasons. And I would dabble in trying to find stuff that was breastfeeding friendly, but often it came down to practicality. And so I lost interest in fashion, and I'd always been quite into clothes and stuff. And I sort of had this weird relationship with my body, in that I really like celebrated my body when I was pregnant, and I used to post like bump shots to Instagram and stuff. And then after I had my baby, I was at peace with my body. It wasn't I hated it, but gradually, in fact, I probably felt most at peace with it just after I'd had the baby, and I was riding that euphoric newborn wave. And then a few months later, when things still hadn't changed and it was still wobbly,
that's the thing,
and stuff,
I think you give yourself a bit of grace when you've just had a baby, because
Yeah,
you
you
think,
do.
well, everybody expects you to look like this just after you've had a baby, but then like after a few months and people expect you to suddenly be exactly how you were again.
Yeah, and this is the thing, I'd go to baby groups and my baby still wasn't sleeping through the night. You know, it's quite
still
normal.
isn't.
Yeah,
Mine still isn't. She's 3
so
and a half.
I was like, every day for me was a battle of survival, and I was surviving on biscuits and tea and just doing what I needed to do to get through the day. Whereas I'd go to baby groups and some of the other mums would be like talking about going to Zumba that night or doing Slimming World or doing stuff, and it almost became like, you know, people, something really interesting, like I would be at baby groups and a mum might say, oh, I want to like lose weight, and rather than saying you look great and you've just had a baby like a couple of months ago, and like let's all just be a bit kinder to ourselves, the consensus was always like, oh yeah, me too. And so that then validates, that reinforces your feelings, your negative feelings about your own body. I think when you, if I say to you, oh, I think I need to lose weight, and you say to me, oh yeah, me too, then that in my head is me saying, oh yeah, Naomi thinks that I don't look great, you know. And actually it isn't even about how you look, it's about, I think that it's about kind of valuing yourself as more than just the way you look. And I think that is what's happened for me over the past year. I've had a bit more time to myself again because my baby's no longer a baby. She's going to be 4 next month. I have really dug deep at looking at what my values are, and going back to, like, I think I lost myself a little bit. And
do you think, because you recently had this secret project that I desperately want to know what it was, but Molly just recently did, she went abroad for like a month, and did something. Do you think that gave you, because I feel like you were kind of on the road to self-love and acceptance before then, and I felt like that was a huge,
well, it's interesting because lots of people have said that, but actually that project never would have happened if I hadn't been putting out the content that I had been putting out. So I made a video about how to be bikini ready, and that was a huge, that for me was the turning point, because it was the beginning of the summer, so it's like March, April time, and all these ads were popping up on Facebook for, you know, how to bust the belly fat and, you know, lose weight, and basically just, I feel like they were just profiting from our insecurities as women. They were all, you
diet
know,
culture,
totally. And it just made me really angry, and I did an Instagram story, and I was like, I had made a video about a year before talking about body confidence and raising girls and how we don't discuss dieting and stuff, but back then I was still in a weird place. So although I felt really strongly that I didn't want to talk about my own body negatively in front of my girls, I was still having some negative thoughts. So that was a kind of a weird thing for me.
It wasn't like about loving your body, it was more like shielding them from that negativity.
So it wasn't like I made a hypocritical video saying love your body, because it was more me talking about raising girls who don't even think about their body as a thing. Their body's a vessel for their beautiful souls, and that's kind of how I've always, even when I was struggling with how I was feeling about myself, I've always tried to shield them from any of that. So I made that video, and I had quite like a bit of feedback on that like a couple of years ago when I made it, and then I decided to make this bikini ready video, and it all came from an Instagram story. I did an Instagram story and I was like, shall I do it? And I got loads of responses, people saying really interested to hear what you think about this. So I made this video, and I think that was, it wasn't a catalyst in how I felt, because that's how I genuinely felt at the time. That was a catalyst in my change of content direction. So, you know, it wasn't that
people responded so positively.
And I think like also I felt like I was starting to reach people that maybe actually felt like they needed to hear that message, and teenage girls. And then I started to look more into it, and I found out, you know, what like terrible rates of body image we have. Like I think the UK, there was a study done a few years ago by a brand, and they found out that teenage girls in the UK have one of the second lowest rates of positive body image in the whole world. I think we're only behind somewhere like China. And there was a recent research showed a few weeks ago that we have terribly high rates of self-harming among teenage girls, and a lot of that is linked to body image and feeling negatively about their bodies.
Have you read The Beauty Myth?
No, I haven't read it.
You need to read The Beauty Myth first. Have you read Megan Jane Crab?
No, I follow her on Instagram.
You need to read both of those books. There's, I can't remember which one of it is. I think it is The Beauty Myth. But The Beauty Myth was what set Body Positive Panda onto her. So these are like big Instagrammers in
there's a whole move
body positivity and stuff. But yeah, one of the in Beauty Myth, there was I can't remember where it was, but there was like a community in a place where they didn't have access to the kind of westernized like media that we have, and they interviewed the girls, and they all had really like high, like they felt fine about their bodies, like viewed them in positive ways, and then they exposed them to the kind of media that we are for a bit,
and they felt
bad. And it was just tanked. Absolutely tanked.
I think like for me, I've always kind of rationally been able to know that my body and the shape of my body and how I look does not define my self-worth, and rationally I genuinely feel like the value that someone has is based more than just in the way they look. But
you can feel those things rationally with years of conditioning. It takes
and that's
so
the
long
thing.
to break it down,
and so I think, you know, that was definitely, and also I'm aware that I'm in a position of privilege, and that I've never been, you know, I've never been abused for my size. I've had to put up, like many women I know, with nasty comments, and I've had things that have like tapped away at my self-esteem, but I've never been discriminated against because of my size.
Even though we don't necessarily feel thin, we do benefit from thin privilege.
So rationally, like, I could kind of see, and I think that helped, but the big thing for me was actually starting to really look at myself in the mirror again. And when I made that video, that Bikini Ready video, it was the year before last summer, the summer before last was like the first summer that I'd been on holiday and worn a bikini after having my second baby. And I remember feeling, it wasn't that I felt like really amazing about my body, it wasn't that I was strutting along the beach like Beyonce, but I just realised no one else gave a shit. No one else was looking at me. And actually, it was really nice feeling the sun on my tummy, even if my tummy wasn't toned. And, you know, I looked around and there were all these different body shapes on the beach.
Men don't care.
And men don't care.
As soon as the sun comes out, men take their tops off, they walk around, they don't care.
But all the, you know, there were women that were big,
not all men,
but there were women who were bigger than me, and there were women who were smaller than me, and generally, like, everyone was just busy, like, on their phones or with their kids or reading a book, like no one cared. And that was like a real turning point for me. But I still didn't feel, I felt irreverent, I felt like neutral, like I didn't really care about my body. I didn't feel bad about it anymore, but I didn't feel good about it. I just was in a place where I just was like, well, to be honest, there are more important things, and there are more important things. It wasn't making me feel bad anymore. And then I think that was after that holiday that we met, and we were probably talking about, like, you know, body image and confidence and stuff. And then, like, over the winter, at Christmas, like, I ate, you know, loads at Christmas and probably put on weight. And I remember January was the first January in so long that I was like, I'm not doing a diet. I'm not going to do dry January or detox or, you know. And I realised, I thought, like, why do I want to make this month even more, sorry, it's my phone, even more miserable than it already is by denying myself all this. Why do I want to, what message am I teaching my kids that we had an amazing Christmas, we had all this really yummy food, and now we have to punish ourselves by denying ourselves, you know, food, or me denying myself food to be what, like a few pounds lighter. So I didn't even weigh myself. And then I started looking in the mirror at myself. I'd get out, it wasn't that I got out of the shower and would not look at myself, but we're mums, you don't have time to, like, examine your body in the morning, you just get dressed, don't you?
See, I think I'm the opposite. I think I feel better when I don't look. Like when I go on holiday or like a festival or whatever and I'm not looking at myself, I forget about my body and I don't.
Do you know
but
what?
I look at myself and, like, I've got, like, like a mirrored wardrobes here, and then so I kind of see myself at all angles, and I don't think that helps me.
But do you know, I think that when you actually stop to look at yourself and actually take time to really look at yourself, and I'm talking not just like a quick glance in the mirror, but I'm talking like spending 5 minutes every day naked or with your underwear on, and actually really taking your body, and you become more immune to it, and then you start seeing things about your body that you like. And it's a weird thing when you first start doing that, because you're used to, I think we're conditioned to look at ourselves in a critical way. So look at ourselves with clothes on, and what's the first thing that I would think, when I got dressed, and I'd say to my husband, oh, does it make me look fat? Like being fat is a bad thing, but also immediately that was the thing that I was focusing on, my problem areas. And I stopped doing that when I actually, because I think I'd always been looking at my body like down, and you have a completely different perspective on your body when you're looking at it from up here, if you're actually looking at yourself in the mirror. And then I just started to feel better, and then I made this video, and I got good feedback from it, and so that was really, it wasn't that my confidence necessarily, my overall confidence has definitely increased over the summer. Someone messaged me the other day on Instagram, and she was like, yeah, but I don't like my body, and nothing that you say is going to make me like my body.
And I following them.
Yeah. No, but then my response to that is that, well, I can't tell you how to feel about your body, but I can maybe help you start thinking about some of these ideas in a bit more of a way to maybe unpick some of the reasons why you feel the way that you feel. I'm not a psychologist, but I've been through a journey, and I think that to say, oh, I'm never going to feel differently is almost, it's not defeatist, but you don't know how you're going to feel. No one knows how they're going to feel like next year or in 5 years time. You don't know what life's going to throw at you. But the other thing is, I think that there is no shame in not loving every inch of your body, and there's no shame in maybe wanting to change parts of it. And I think that we have to be really careful with this whole self-love and self-acceptance movement, which is a fantastic thing, and we definitely need to see more diversity in bodies. Like 100%, we are being exposed. It's negative. It's awful that we've been exposed to.
It's one of the things I love about social media.
Yeah.
People are reclaiming that space,
and brands are starting to notice that. Like Rihanna has just done a collaboration with Fenty, and it's just amazing. Her whole show at New York Fashion Week was like a whole range of diverse models.
I didn't see on the pictures, any or many people with disabilities, but there was, other than that, there was diversity. I don't think there were. So they had they're different like ethnicities and body shapes, and that's a good step forward. But I think we have to be careful in that we don't want to get to a point where people feel that they can't be open and honest about how they feel, and there should be no stigma or shame attached to feeling negatively about your body. And actually, I do genuinely love my body now, and that's what I meant about saying you were further along on your journey, because I feel like you do genuinely love your body now. I love parts of my body, but I'm still quite critical of parts of my body. Like I don't think, like I still rationally, I know that putting on weight isn't bad. But like still internally, like I would still not want to gain weight,
like
so I'm not there yet.
Thing.
I'm not there
I
yet.
think almost like you have to kind of give yourself a break and think you've had 30 odd years of conditioning to feel that one body type of this beauty ideal, and it takes a long time to unpick some of that stuff and unravel
and I'm definitely further along than I was.
And everyone has their own story, and everyone has their own, it sounds really cheesy, but everyone has their own journey, and everyone will go on that journey at a different time. For me, a lot of my confidence it's linked up with the things that I've done, and I think I felt, as soon as I started feeling better about my body, then I found a way to talk about that, and then I got a boost in confidence because I felt like I was actually saying something that was making a difference and it was going through, and then that has all, like, it's all linked. So
that reminds me of that Kristen Bell quote. She said she's not the kind of woman where her self-worth is determined by like her gene size.
Yeah.
And she talks about how she gets self-worth from esteemable acts.
Yeah.
So like she'll go and volunteer, or she'll
Yeah.
do like charity stuff, and she feels self-worth from helping people
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like, when I first heard her say that, and I was like, well, yeah, but it's
true though. Like, I
that.
think that I really genuinely feel like I have found a level of confidence this summer through the things that I've done, and that has been huge. So, you know, I had an amazing experience on this work project, which I still can't talk about.
I'm never going to hear about this
and it was
project.
really,
It's driving me mad.
But like, for me, that was a huge confidence booster. Not that I felt low before, but I think it was
I
a
could
big
see
thing,
that. I could see that
because
on
I
your
went away
Instagram
from
and
my
stuff.
kids for 4 weeks, you know, and I had to put up with a huge amount of negativity. Not a huge amount. I had to put up with more negativity than I've ever had to deal with online, but also got a huge amount of positivity. And then I started, you know, really talking about the things that genuinely mattered to me, and it was cutting through, and I was getting messages from people who, you know, not other bloggers, but like people who were reading my stuff, and it was genuinely making a difference. And then that obviously makes you feel good, because you're like, oh, I'm actually saying something that's worthwhile. And it's not a hypocritical thing. This is stuff that I genuinely believe, because it breaks my heart. I was getting messages from some girls who were just feeling so low, and it breaks my heart that there are people out there, not just girls either, boys as well actually, and men.
Yeah.
And people, you know, feeling like their whole value to the world was tied up in.
It's everywhere we look, right? We have in our office at work, you're going to be outraged here, there are scales in our office at work.
Why?
Because they have Fat Club, and you know, that's what they want to do, and they'll weigh themselves.
No wonder you're like.
And then whoever loses the most weight wins. They all put money in, and then they get a prize. But yeah, my office is just full of diet culture all the time.
And if
it's
you're surrounded, of course.
And we do have somebody on the team who had an eating disorder once as well, and I wonder how they feel being exposed to that all the time.
Like, that's
but it is, you can't, like, there's constantly diet talk, and then also, like, ironically, constantly cakes being brought in.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
no, it's messed up, isn't it? I think, yeah.
Sorry.
No, I just think, like, I think the other thing to note though is that I'm not immune, although I'm saying like you have more to offer than the way you look. Like I genuinely believe that. Like for me, it's a much bigger compliment someone can give me to say like, oh, you're funny, or you're kind, or your words have really made a difference to how I feel. But I am not immune to someone giving me a compliment about the way I look and me feeling good about that compliment. And actually, I've grappled with this over the last couple of months, because I've thought, am I properly a feminist if I'm putting up pictures of myself in my pants to show my real body, because I really believe that we need to see more normal naked bodies, and then I'm feeling good when someone says to me, another woman says to me, oh, you look really good. Is that like not anti-feminist? Actually,
no.
I think that you can still want to feel, you can still enjoy compliments about the way you look, and I still want to be desired. I still want my husband to find me sexy, even though I know that that is not the only thing I have to offer him. Like, I still like that kind of admiration in a way. I think the interesting thing is that people have said it more since I've found this confidence, and it's not the way that I look that people are finding attractive, it's the confidence that people are finding attractive.
And I can totally see that on your Instagram. You just seem so confident and happy now. It's really striking. I really see it on your Instagram. I'm like, wow, I need to get Molly to give me some more. We're gonna have to wrap it up here anyway. We could talk about this for ages. We'll probably talk about it again. I'm just so pleased to have Molly here again, because I missed you. But yeah, so all we want to say is, join us both on our journey. Love our bodies, love yourself more, be kinder to yourself, be kinder to other people.
I'm really interested to hear like what people think, what their own kind of situation is with,
let us know in the
how
comments.
you're feeling about your body, like in the comments. I just love chatting about this, and I know everyone's got a really different experience and journey. I hate it's so cliche, but it's true, everyone has a different journey, and I think it's interesting to talk about.
When I wrote a blog post about this once, and what was interesting was, it wasn't the comments that I got in the blog post, it was the private messages I got from people who felt the same but didn't dare talk about it. Didn't, you know, often people who
still quite a taboo subject.
People who were, I had some messages from people who were society would consider bigger, who were saying that they loved their bodies and they were really surprised that somebody of my size would feel like this. And then I had a lot of messages from women who were quite thin, who were saying, oh yeah, I recognise all of these, but I wouldn't want to say it out loud to anybody. And I was
but
like,
I think
really
it's also really important to like acknowledge that this isn't just a feminine issue. Like, it's not just, obviously, like as women we're subject to all the body image ideals, and there's a huge amount of crap wrapped up in it. But this is also like men and boys. I know, like, I'm married to someone who's had like big issues with the way that his body looks. This is something that affects all human beings, regardless of age or gender.
Yeah, I do think it affects women more though, doesn't it?
I think that men are now under a huge amount of pressure. I mean, look at Love Island. Like, they were all a certain type of body, the men and the women.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I just think it would be great wouldn't it be fantastic if on mainstream media we could see more diversity of different body shapes, men and
I think
women.
until in film we stopped seeing like an old paunch guy getting head off like a young live 20-year-old. It's
alright, what kind of film do you watch?
Every single film seems to be
well, that's a whole other issue. Women and age. Women aren't allowed to get old, are they? And I'll talk about that as well if you want me to.
We'll stop. We'll be going all night. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I'll leave Molly's link in the description below, so please go follow Molly. If you aren't following me, then please do, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.